Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Kaitlan Collins thinks that she's got Chip Roy caught between a rock and a hard place during her interview, but Chip Roy instead turns it right around and hits these questions right out of the ballpark. Let's dive in.
But we know where it's going because one, they track it, and two, when Zelensky was saying where's all this money coming from, he was saying that a lot of that is not coming to them just in suitcases of cash. It's coming in, as you know very well, because a lot of this is made in your home state. It's coming in equipment from the United States.
Sure, but again, we still don't have a full accounting of how it's being used exactly.
But that's not why this is being paused tonight. Can we talk about why this is being paused tonight? Because if there was a concern about what was being sent and what was appropriated during the drawdown, this is coming because of Friday's fight in the Oval Office. Do you think it's a negotiating tactic, a pressure tactic on Ukraine?
Well, like I said, I think it could have and maybe should have been done irrespective of what happened Friday. Because, again, where are we taking this? The president wants a ceasefire. He's been very clear about that. He campaigned on that. He talked about that. He wants peace. And so right now they're saying have a ceasefire. And the president was serious about saying we can sit down with Russia and try to figure out where the lines will be drawn, figure out Crimea, figure out Donbass. But at the end of the day, we've got to actually know what the path to success is. Ukrainians are dying by the tens of thousands. Our money is being used to fuel that war and continue a war that I'd like to know, where does that lead us? How do we get to success here?
Who do you blame for that war?
I mean, look, the war started under Joe Biden's watch. He destroyed our energy policies. He empowered Russia. He was siding with Iran and China, which was also helping Russia.
Wait, but you blame Joe Biden for the war?
This all started under Joe Biden.
But who started the war?
But my point is that war wouldn't have started if Donald Trump's in the White House. If we have a strong hand in the White House, Vladimir Putin does not go into Ukraine. That's just the truth. We had a weak hand in the White House.
Well,
Joe Biden let it happen. Destroyed our energy
policy. That's your analysis and your view, but you don't know that for sure. And secondly,
all I know is there weren't a lot of wars getting started under President Trump.
But my point
in his 4 years, what wars started under President Trump?
My point of the answer to that question was that Putin started this war and Russia started this war. Do you disagree with that?
Well, Putin obviously invaded Ukraine, but the reason that happened was because of weakness from the United States. Our foreign policy matters. When we absolutely give away the field on energy, when we make bad decisions in terms of who we're siding with around the globe, and we strengthen the hand of Putin, then he walks into Ukraine, then we throw money at Zelensky and say, okay, here you can have all the resources you need to keep funding a war, which, but where was Europe in a lot of that? Yes, I know they contributed some, but we were funding the lion's share of that. And then you wonder, well, why is this getting perpetuated when Ukrainians are dying and now they can't even recruit enough people to fight the war?
I'm not going to argue this point, but it is well known that Putin has long believed that Ukraine is part of Russia. He does not think Ukraine is a sovereign nation. He thinks it belongs to him. That was his position long before Joe Biden took office and they started amassing troops.
Sure, and for the 4 years of President Trump, he didn't go into Ukraine, did he? And look, again, your policy.
But he didn't give Crimea back, did he?
Well, but you wonder whether or not you're going to have a war.
But did he give Crimea? He didn't give back the other land that he had taken illegally when Obama was in office.
That raises the issues under Obama. The point is, when you have weakness in the United States, you have weakness in the White House, then you're going to have people around the globe who act, and people are saying, well, he loves to side with Putin. No. President Trump wants to make sure we have a strong America that is siding on the side of righteousness, but to deliver results. If you have a ceasefire here where we can get to the table instead of having Ukrainians getting killed because we're fueling a war that Zelensky nor European leaders have ever given us a path to success, the president is leading us down the path of peace.
And Chip Roy is exactly right here, y'all. Trump's mantra when it comes to foreign policy has essentially been one thing. What makes money? Okay, what makes money, not just for the United States? That has sort of been the mantra for the past 30 to 40 years. What's good for the United States? And before then, it was, how can we screw over the Soviet Union? Funny how Russia is at the forefront of so many of these problems, but that's another topic for another day. What we need to be asking ourselves is, what's going to benefit Russia? What's going to benefit Ukraine? And since we're the ones that have decided to involve ourselves in this insipid war, what's going to benefit us? So far, our benefit seems to be we want a minerals rights deal in Ukraine. Ukraine wants its independence, and they want to make sure that Russia doesn't ever invade them again. And Russia wants to make sure that they can keep on sending out their oil to all of Europe. Well, Europe has kind of shut down that potential notion because of the second building of another pipeline from Norway to the rest of Europe across the Baltic and North Seas, and that sort of put a damper on that whole idea because remember. Donald Trump, back in his first term, chided European leaders for being too dependent on Russian oil. They took his words a little too literally, and once that war started, they completed another pipeline. Not the Nord Stream pipeline, that's a different one. But they completed a different pipeline, and now Europe can continue to get that oil and natural gas reserves from the North Sea and Norway instead of getting it from Russia. So now Russia has to make up that loss in some form or fashion. Now, again, I am not excusing Russian actions in Ukraine. Absolutely. I am merely explaining why I think it happened and why I think it's going to continue to happen until you end up changing the status quo. And I think the status quo kind of revealed itself just the other day. Vance said in an interview with Fox News Channel's Sean Hannity, aired Monday evening, that the pact would give the U.S. access to Ukraine's critical minerals is a better security guarantee than 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years. Now, this is a reference to Europe deciding that out of the blue, without any real military history, without any really military action in the past almost 30 years outside of a few actions in Iraq and Afghanistan, these folks aren't ready for any defensive measures. And so, by making something economical, by making something viable, that if Russia decides to push even further into Ukraine, you now draw the U.S. deeper into a potential conflict, that's not going to end too well for the Russian forces, who are already in a very difficult situation. Now, granted, it's worse for the Ukrainians right now, but let's continue on this little thread here. The president knows that, look, if you want real security guarantees, if you want to actually ensure that Vladimir Putin does not invade Ukraine again, the very best security guarantee is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. That's exactly what I was just pointing out. The whole idea of peace works better if people are, simply put, making too much money to make war completely unviable. All right? That is why Donald Trump facilitated a major not just peace treaty, but economic treaty between Turkey, Israel, and, of course, Saudi Arabia. And these nations realize that money makes the world go round. We can't really afford to be caught up in any other insipid reasons for getting involved into military conflicts. Let's just all make money and be happy. Okay? That is capitalism in a nutshell. Let's make money and be happy. That has not been America's foreign policy ideas, particularly over the past 4 years or so under Joe Biden, and definitely wasn't the case ever since the Soviet Union fell. Donald Trump is bringing a completely new set of ideologies and a new way of looking at the world, instead of from a military perspective, but an economic one. And let's actually continue back to that middle paragraph. The comments by J.D. Vance throw the spotlight again on the differences between President Donald Trump and the UK Prime Minister and the French President. European leaders have called for a post-conflict peacekeeping force in Ukraine to prevent Russia invading again if Moscow and Kyiv reach a truce to put a stop to the Russian invasion. So in other words, the traditional line of thinking has essentially been, we need UN peacekeepers, we need buffer zones, we need sort of a demilitarized zone. Well, a demilitarized zone, you know what it really is? It's just a line in the sand while everyone else continues to lob shells over the other sides of the wall, and they commit economic warfare on a completely different scale. And instead of having a hot conflict, it becomes a cold conflict. And literally, that's where the term Cold War comes from. And that doesn't work well for nations. In order to sustain an actual peace, the best thing that cuts through the differences in culture, in religion, in policy, in pretty much any major differences you can find between the vast amounts of this human race, it's economics. It's money. That's the sad, ugly truth. It's not that money is the root of all evil, it's the love of money. And however, when you weaponize that love and turn it into sort of a weapon for peace, all of a sudden you've changed a major paradigm. That's what J.D. Vance is now doing with Donald Trump. That's why he's the vice president. Marco Rubio is now on board with this ideology, and of course, Donald Trump probably needs his own school of foreign policy named after him at this point to start studying his theories, because I believe this can work. Having an economic reason for Russia not to invade Ukraine is going to work a whole lot better than them having an economic reason to invade Ukraine. That is what's going to create a lasting peace here. Not some UN peacekeeping treaty, not some demilitarized zone. It's going to be in the form of economics. And the sooner Zelensky and Putin understand this, the sooner this war can end. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.